Hello, everybody. I am back on screen. So if you are seeing me for the second time this morning, Selamat Hari Raya Aidil Adha. Yes, because it is a public holiday and therefore I am very hardworking today. And it also because it marks the end of the Industry Immersion Programme, a collaboration between Chrysalis and Skilio to actually provide this platform for our uni students who are not able to go for their overseas immersion program because of the COVID-19 pandemic, to have a platform for them to be able to learn some industry-based skills, at the same time hone their soft skills in the process, right? So in our industry, which is in the training and facilitation industry, some of the soft skills that or some of the industry skills, sorry, that we need people to kind of learn about or figure out about is really the ability to listen actively or empathetically, at the same time be able to also then ask effective questions, right? So we felt that these are important skill sets as a facilitator and as a trainer, and these will also help our students to learn a little bit more about how they are actually interacting and having their relationships with each other, and being able to articulate themselves in terms of asking questions, because a lot of times they perhaps feel that they just wait to be given the answers. So what if they ask questions? They might be able to get responses a lot more efficiently and a lot more effectively. And for this Project Connect, really the intention of the project itself is to actually reach out to community. So this first started as an idea from a good friend called Lina, and how she kind of came up with an idea of reaching out to people who are in the one room rental flats and the elderly who are living alone, was because of the situation when DORSCON Orange was announced, and then people went to panic buy, and it struck her quite emotionally about like, oh no, then what's going to happen to these people who are perhaps experiencing all these situations, right? And they can't quite um, do anything about it because they either don't know that there's this situation happening, or they don't have the ability to go and get the necessities where other people are snatching it off the shelf. So when she was affected and impacted by this, she actually thought of coming up with this project in the way of perhaps with me and herself, just the two of us to start with, to go door to door and knock on the doors and actually ask how are they doing, how are they experiencing the pandemic, and even going to the extent of providing them with hand sanitizers as well as masks so that they can protect themselves and still go about doing what they need to do. And by the time we came up with the how to go about doing it, then circuit breaker happened and we couldn't actually do anything to to proceed with the plan. Right, so we kind of shelved this at that period of time. And then when Skilio approached Chrysalis to say, hey, can you support this group of students, uni students who can't go for their overseas immersion program? Then we thought about it and say, yeah, why not, right? Because then we could allow these students to now be the ones to support us in terms of um, helping us to reach out to the community. So we just have to tweak it a little bit. So it might no longer be about reaching out to those who are in the one room rental flats or the elderly who live alone, but it could be a larger population in Singapore, to just find out from them from a ground up perspective what is happening for them as they're experiencing this pandemic. So we are very glad and proud to have actually two cohorts coming on board to support this project. The second cohort finished their project in June, and in July we have this current cohort with us, and we have 5 lovely ladies on board. It's female power for both my projects, right? I had a happiness project, and then this is Project Connect. So I'm going to bring these ladies on board. I think enough conversation from me. I have spoken enough. Let us just bring the participants of this project on board. Participants as in the people, the team members who are responsible for interviewing, listening, consolidating the data and information. And for this cohort, they also have a huge task, right? Because it's not just taking the data that they have from them their interviews, but also from the previous interviews from cohort 2. And cohort 2 were very generous in their approach, because what they did was they interviewed a lot of their own age group, and they didn't touch a lot from the other age groups. So this current cohort actually have a very huge task in terms of having to reach out to people from other age groups to interview. Without further ado, let's bring them on. So I'm going to bring the first person on. Her name is Sing An. And hi, Sing An.
Hi.
Right, so I'm going to ask Sing An to just introduce herself and share a little bit about like what she is studying, perhaps. Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Sing An. I'm in NUS going to year 3 studying social work.
Thank you, Sing An. And we'll bring on the next person, Katie.
Hi, good morning. I'm Katie. I'm also studying in NUS. I'm going to be year 2 studying information systems and business.
Yay. And bring on Yuling.
Hi everyone, I'm Yiling and I'm also in NUS and I'm a soon to be year 2 studying psychology.
Yay. And then we have Angela.
Hello, my name is Angela, and I guess I'm the only NTU student here. And I'm entering year 3 next sem, and I'm studying history. Yeah.
Oh, wow, history. Cool. We are in a moment of history in the pandemic. Hopefully it will not
Right.
occur again in the near future. And last but not least, we have Jen.
Hello, I'm Jen. I'm studying Econs and Business in NUS as well.
Thank you. Right. Thank you for a few of the people who are currently watching us. People like Terrence and Shannon. Shannon was from Project Happiness. And then we also probably have Margareta and a few other people who are kind of like watching in and tuning in. Thank you very much. This session is going to kind of like last till lunchtime. We hope we will give you enough time for lunch. But yes, it's a public holiday, so you can take any time for lunch. Right. So without further ado, I'm just going to ask our dear team members, right? What motivated you to join this SIIP? And then like why sign up for this particular project? Like got so many projects on the list, then why this particular one, Project Connect? So perhaps you all can take turns to respond.
Okay, I can start first. So actually for my summer holidays, right, I plan to go to London for a summer school program. I signed up already, then I got the accommodation there and everything. Yeah, but then I found out that it got cancelled because of COVID. So I had nothing to do for like my summer holidays. Then I came across this SIIP in one of the Telegram chat. Yeah, then actually I remember seeing the slots being taken up very, very fast. So I just saw like any project that's like kind of related to social work, then I immediately like quickly go and sign up already. Yeah, then actually really taken up very fast. Like I think in the next like 5 minutes, like the 3 slots for my project all gone already. So yeah. So anyways, I remember seeing the project description. It was something about active listening skills and also like assessing the needs of the community. So it actually reminded me of my internship that I did last year at a family service center. So it's like I thought about how it's kind of related to social work and it's probably like useful for me. This experience is probably useful for me in the future. So I just like sign up for it long. Yes, that's for me.
Okay, I can go next. So like what happened was that I'm actually involved in 2 of my orientation camps as part of the organizing committee. But because of COVID, right, so it got cancelled, like physical camps. So I had nothing planned for my summer holidays. Then I like Sing An, right? I came across this Skilio Immersion project in the NUS Fair students group. So like I signed up for it because like I saw plenty of like projects, but I chose this because like I saw the skill set that we can develop, which are like active listening, empathy, communication, and things like that, which I'm like very interested in to like develop and like be better at. Yeah. So like it also like it was kind of interesting because like at first initially I had different ideas about this project. So I thought it's like to like physical interviews, yeah. But because like what Michelle said, because of COVID, we didn't have our door visits anymore. So it became like all online, yeah. But okay, I mean I'm still quite interested because like yeah, I get to like meet new people and like have more discussions that yeah, I can learn new perspectives. Okay.
I think similar to like, oh sorry, I think
never mind.
similar to like Katie and Jen, right? Initially like I had a lot of plans. I planned to travel and I planned to like do my internship, but a lot of things got cancelled. So I decided to join this program because my friend actually sent me this Telegram link, and then she was telling me, oh, a lot of uni students are actually doing this right now. Would you like to join? And then I was like, oh, okay, sure. And then like Xingnan, a lot of slots were actually taken up very quickly. So I actually signed up for a few, and like luckily I got into this, and I think I got into another one. But I chose this because I find meaning in it when I read the job scope, and then I saw the word empathetic, and I think it really like struck me. So I ended up taking up this like project without like much thought lah. Yeah.
Then for me, I guess it was also like I kind of like I already heard of Skilio before this, but I was still like as they slowly release the different projects, I was still like waiting and like deciding whether I wanted to join or not. But then actually I think the slots was filled for this project already. But one day I saw that suddenly like maybe someone backed out or something, then there was suddenly another vacancy. So I was like, oh, I telling me like a sign, then I just go for it. And also because like previously during the semester I was already doing another like part-time thing where I go around like surveying a household. So I thought it would be like an interesting like build on to that kind of skills. Yeah.
I guess for myself, it's also very similar to everybody else. So, like, my summer was supposed to be very exciting. I have all my holiday plans and also all the orientation camps. And I was also looking for summer internships actually. And for myself, I was quite open to exploring like different industries just to gain more experience. And my friend is actually in the marketing team of Skilio, so she was the one who told me about it. And she told me to check out the Telegram group. And yeah, just like everybody else, I was quite shocked by the number of projects they offered. And also, like, really within 5 minutes, everything is filled out already. So I think for myself, like, the minute I entered the group, it was project 53. So project 54 was like immediately after that. So I just decided to sign up because I saw the name like Project Connect and it sounded quite interesting also. And yeah, same as Jen, I saw the skill sets and I wanted to work on my interpersonal skills as well and to develop empathy and also to practice active listening. So yeah, that was why I signed up.
Cool. Thank you, ladies. It sounds like this Industry Immersion Program is very hot cakes. Like the moment things are launched, it's off the shelf immediately. Did it make you all feel very kanchiong, like very, very flustered and very FOMO? Is it got FOMO? All right. So without further ado, I'm going to invite you all to share your findings for the project because you put in so much time and hard work behind it, right? And while they are loading the slides and stuff, I'm just going to say that the additional work that they had to do was really to eventually at the end of the entire project, put everything together for all the two cohorts and then come up with a report at the same time, come up with like an infographic or an ebook, right? So like they have a lot of things to do and actually the ebook is done. So we will talk about the ebook later on, right? But meanwhile, let them share a bit more about the findings of the project and anything that came up that was interesting for them. So ladies, take it away.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Once again, thank you for taking the time to like watch our presentation, especially on a public holiday. So together we are the third cohort of Project Connect, which was started like during DOSCON Orange. Yeah, and actually we are a continuation of the previous cohorts group. So we are nearing the end of the project, and I mean we have reached the end of the project and we are very excited to share our findings with you. Yeah, so for today I will be sharing with you more about how we carry out the project first, and then the rest of my team will go on to share about the results of our 4-week journey. Yeah. uh, so as Michelle mentioned earlier, they started this project in order to find out more about how people's lives have been affected during this pandemic, right? So what we actually did was that we would call up people to interview them, but in a like casual way, like having a chat. So because for many of us, this pandemic is a once in a lifetime event, and it's like definitely useful to learn about its impacts from the ground as the crisis is unfolding. Yeah, so we also want to connect with people and encourage them to share about their personal experiences during these trying times, which I think we are not very used to doing usually. Yeah, so in order to do that, our interviews simply consisted of us asking very general and mostly open-ended questions like, how has this pandemic affected you and your loved ones? Do you think this crisis has been managed well so far? And then we just let them like share their opinions freely and then say whatever came to their mind. Yeah, and especially since we just came out of a circuit breaker, basically at the soft lockdown, which has like totally disrupted all of our lives, right? We wanted to spark conversations and hear people's true thoughts and feelings by creating a safe space for them to do so without consequences. Yeah, so lastly, as the final cohort of this project, we wanted to ensure that the data we collected is holistic and representative of our community. Yeah, so now let me walk you through the process of our project. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, this is a 4-week project, and we just continued collecting data, and we already had the interview questions from the previous cohort and everything. Yeah, but because the previous groups mostly reached out to the people they knew personally, so the respondents we had were mostly only like people around our age. Yeah, so in order to have a more comprehensive set of data, we were limited to interviewing people above 25 years old, to make sure that like the number of respondents in each group is around the same. Yeah, so we set a target at the start to do around at least 100 interviews. Yeah, which sounded like a lot when I first heard it. Yeah, and it also brings me to the problem that we didn't know where to find all these people because we're all like 20, 21. And then at least personally, apart from like my family members, I barely had any contacts who were like above 25. Yeah, so in the first week, Michelle helped us out by giving us like a bunch of her friends' contacts who kindly agreed to our interviews. Yeah, and many of them were actually quite busy. So yeah, thank you everyone. Yeah, and that helped a lot because they were really nice and very ready to converse with us while we were like still new to this whole interviewing thing and like quite awkward sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, I like to take this time to like thank all our interviewees for allowing us to chat with them for like up to an hour plus sometimes, and for being willing to share their personal stories with us. I really appreciate and enjoyed hearing from you all. Yeah. So as we gradually warm up to this interviewing, right, and over the next 2 weeks, we managed to reach out and find our own interviewees, mostly through our parents or our friends' parents. And by the end of ours and the previous cohort, in total we had connected with a total of 255 people. Yay! So like all that's left in the last week is to sort out all the responses that we have collected, to see if we can identify the common themes and concerns that people have. Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, we compile everything into our deliverables, which also uh, consists of an ebook and actually a report. Yeah, and then we'll be sharing that soon. Yeah. So that's the background of Project Connect, and then the rest of the team will be sharing the insights we gained, starting from Sinan. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ling. So moving on, our team will be sharing about the different findings from our data. So firstly, I'll be sharing on our demographics of our interviewees, followed by how COVID-19 has affected lives on an individual level, and then on a family level also. So, like mentioned earlier by Yuling, we have managed to interview 255 respondents in total, and cohort 2 mainly focus on the those aged between 18 to 25, while we focus on those above 25. And within the 18 to 25 age group, right, we also interview a diverse range of people. So we have students from like polys, local and overseas unis, and recent university graduates who are either seeking employment or are already in full-time jobs. And we also have the NSFs. And the rest of our interviewees above 25 were mostly working adults from various professions, as well as stay-home parents, stay-home parents or retired individuals. And it's also important to note that although our interviews are somewhat diverse, our pool of respondents is an inadequate representation of the wider Singapore society. So our findings may be useful in providing some insight on how the virus has affected Singaporeans, but it cannot be used to generalize to the whole Singapore. So in general, right, the interviewees from all age groups were quite approachable and open to sharing, but the older ones tend to be busy with work and were therefore not free to interview for too long. But nevertheless, they provided rather exciting insights about their employment concerns, their struggles as mid-career professionals during an economic downturn, and also their struggles being in a sandwich generation, having to take care of the young, their children, and also the old, which are their parents. So now I'll be moving on to share the impact that COVID-19 has on individuals. Overall, the interviews describe the pandemic as one that is disruptive and unexpected, with it lasting longer than expected. And it also has brought about uncertainty, anxiety, and fear amongst many Singaporeans. For working adults, 21% of our interviewees had their income affected due to the pandemic. And this includes those from the F&B, retail, aviation industries. And personally, for myself, I spoke to an insurance agent who lost a huge part of her income as she was unable to meet up with clients. And it is hard to close cases online also. So she had to resort to alternative sources of income, like singing on a live stream app. I don't know whether you all know, like the Bigo app. And surprisingly, right, she told me she was able to earn an extra 1.5K each month after singing on the app. And next, we also had 33% of our interviewees who had a change in their job scope, which required them to take on additional roles and responsibilities. So majority of the interviewees that we talked to were non-essential workers who had to adapt to working from home. And with this whole working from home measure, right, they shared that they found it hard to draw the boundaries between family time and work life. And they end up working beyond their working hours of like 9 to 5. Yeah. So one of the interviewees that I talked to, he shared that he would start work at 8 a.m., but then he would only like get off work at like 12 or 1 a.m. And he shared that it is because he don't have to waste time traveling, and it's so convenient to just sit at his table all day to do his work. And he also don't have to travel out to eat lunch, and sometimes he even like eat lunch while working. So we see how they are affected in the sense where they have to work longer. However, there's also the brighter side. So like 41% of our interviewees shared that they spend more time with their family members. And this is due to the circuit breaker, which allowed them to see one another every day. And we talked to many parents of who have children who are in the teens or the young adults phase, and they shared about how they are very happy during this period. The children, they are like home during their weekends compared to like last time, the children like always out during the weekends with their friends. And we also talked to married couples, but the married couples, they express some kind of like sadness because they are unable to go back home to see their parents because they are married and they are living away from their parents, right? So they are sad that they are unable to see their parents and extended families during that period. And over time, with increased time spent together, it is also inevitable for tensions to build up. And this is due to the lack of personal space and boundaries at home. And I talked to another interviewee. She shared she quarreled a bit more with her daughter because she see how her daughter is always using her phone at home. Yeah, but in general, they still shared that it was a good time to still grow together closer as a family despite those conflicts. And we also asked them to rate how their family relationships were affected. And it was quite nice to see how the majority actually expressed that their relationships with their family improved. Yes, so next I'll be passing on the time to Angela, who will be sharing how friendships were affected by COVID-19.
Okay, thanks, Sinan. So Sinan has shared about like a lot about family. Now I'll share more about our findings regarding the relationship and friendship between our interviewees and their friends. And as expected, many have adapted to the use of online communication platforms such as Zoom and Skype, and many have also continued the use of WhatsApp and text messages. Hence, we can safely say that actually most of our interviewees are quick to adapt to digital communication, as most of them have actually been using them even before the pandemic. So one notable discovery is how many interviewees have explored ways to connect via the online tools such as Zoom and Skype. So many spend hours playing online games such as MLBB or games provided by the Zoom app. Some of our interviewees also watch movies and dramas via the Netflix party function or the Zoom function that allows people to watch videos simultaneously. So on a positive note, it was indeed like eye-opening for us how digital communication has evolved rapidly and how humans have found new ways and methods to ensure that the fun and connection with their friends will never be lost during the pandemic. However, we found out that 31% of our interviewees still lamented over the thought that online meetings would never replace face-to-face meetings. So one interviewee, notably an insurance agent, shared that there is a lack of personal or human touch during online meetings. So for her, she likes to treat her clients as her friends, and with the restriction on physical meetups, she finds difficulties in forging new friendships with people. So like on a negative note, while there might not be much difficulty in maintaining existing friendships and relationships during this period, there must be some challenges forging new ones. So surprisingly, 24% of our interviewees expressed that there have not been any changes in their friendships, or there isn't much changes, as they have been very busy with their families and work all this while and did not have many meetups with their friends either. While this is an interesting discovery, our group also noted that these statistics might be attributed to the fact that our interviewees are mostly adults, ranging from 30 years old to 60 years old. So to this group of people, there is not much change to them because they have prioritized work and family life over socializing with friends. So now I'll pass my time to Jen to elaborate more in depth about our findings.
Thanks, Angela. I will now be doing a quick comparison between the two cohorts. So on a closer look, we realized that there were some slight differences between the responses from cohort 2 and those from our cohort. So firstly, their respondents from cohort 2 were many students who were very concerned about the job market and the availability of job opportunities after their graduation. On the other hand, our target group, who was mainly the working adults, were more concerned and more worried about a loss of their income and having their pay cut. We also learned that these working adults were facing a greater burden as they had to care for their children and parents while students and working adults are and they had to care for their parents and children at the same time as they are working from home together. So, however, what we noticed was that both these groups of people from our cohorts have expressed that their greatest fear is them or their loved ones contracting COVID-19 illness themselves. So moving on, I will talk about how our interviewees think about the government policies during this period. So as expected, we received mixed responses from our respondents. Many of them mentioned the COVID-19 support grant and self-employed relief scheme as one of the greatest efforts our government has put in place to help the lower income families and those who have been affected by COVID-19. So basically, these schemes are there to help lower the financial burden for those who have been negatively impacted by COVID. Many of them actually really appreciated the monthly cash handouts, which helped them tide over this tough period. Furthermore, job and training support by Workforce Singapore has helped Singaporeans who lost their jobs upskill and upgrade themselves over this period in order to find new jobs and employment opportunities after this period. So these training programs equip them with new skills, and also other respondents were also quick to point out the usefulness of the free masks handed out at their respective community clubs. So in addition, the government has implemented a few relief measures such as wage subsidies, tax rebates and rent relief to business owners and employees so that they can receive more help over COVID-19. So, however, a few of our interviewees pointed out some areas for improvement. Firstly, they criticized the government for not acting fast enough in terms of implementing the circuit breaker and shutting the borders well closed fast enough. So, which subsequently led to continually high numbers of daily reported cases between our community and even for the imported cases. So secondly, some also mentioned that the financial aid was insufficient and not targeted enough for the low-income families because other underlying issues such as the reason for mass unemployment and retrenchment should be targeted instead of just being reliant on these cash handouts as this cash handout will eventually be depleted one day. So one example would be how the Resorts World Sentosa has laid off thousands of employees, and many of these laid off workers are now faced with lots of uncertainty and worry for their future. Even those who manage to keep their jobs now are worried because they have no clue if they are required to take on more jobs and more duties in their jobs and also have to face retrenchment again in the future. Similarly, those working in the travel industry, like the Singapore Airlines, are also being retrenched, and those below the manager level actually has to face a wage cut of more than of 10%. Yeah, so even for these vulnerable groups, their future is bleak, and they are very worried about the possibly loss of income. So I will now be passing the time over to Katie, who will be sharing more about how our society has reacted over this pandemic. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jen. So Jen has shared on the effectiveness of the government policies and people's perception of them. So now I'll touch on how our society reacted as a whole towards the COVID-19 situation. So the responses regarding how the Singaporean society reacted was actually very similar to that of cohort 2. So there were very mixed responses, but they were largely positive. So most interviewees actually responded that Singaporeans are generally socially responsible. Many Singaporeans were also very kind-hearted during this trying time, and they were concerned about the welfare of the less privileged. Many people also shared on social media, and a lot of my friends, they were actually sharing about the plight of migrant workers as well as those from lower income families, and they urged for donations from people that they know. So it was very heartwarming to hear all these anecdotes of Singaporeans from all walks of life just stepping up to help those in need. And for instance, Giving SG actually received a record donation after the solidarity payment handed out by the government. And the COVID-19 situation definitely brought out some of the better sides of society, which might indicate a new level of community spirit that has never been seen before prior to the COVID-19 situation. Nevertheless, on the flip side, there were a handful of people who did not abide by the rules during the circuit breaker period. So, for example, um, on the news, we will often read about people who are flouting the circuit breaker rules, or they are not wearing masks or having social gatherings in large groups. Furthermore, Singaporeans also became rather complacent after the easing of circuit breaker measures. So many people were seen rushing out in the first week of phase 2 for non-essential activities, and I believe that this has resulted in a surge of community cases initially. So I feel that Singaporeans should not rest on their laurels, and while we have done a very good job in helping those in need, we can definitely do better. So now I'll pass on my time to Angela to share about the limitations of our project.
Thanks, Katie. So now I'd like to share a little bit on our limitations of this whole project. So taking into consideration our safety during this pandemic, our interviews were mainly conducted over phone calls or video calls. These interviews may not be as effective compared to the face-to-face interviews due to possible miscommunication over the phone. It is also hard to evaluate the interviewee's feelings and facial expressions, making us extra cautious with our words. In addition, our interviews were also conducted by 5 different members. Though we used the same set of questions in the Google form, the way we ask or put across certain questions could be different, and the way that we link from one question to the other would be different also, depending on the style of each member. So this could affect how the interviewees could provide their answers to us too, resulting in possible biased responses. Our team could have possibly made a greater conscious effort to standardize the way and manner in which we ask our questions. So like over the 4 weeks, right, we definitely have some setbacks or problems, but I believe that our group has effectively solved it with the help of Michelle also. Yeah. So I'll pass my time back to Katie to tell you more about our ebook and wrap up the session.
Okay, so as mentioned, we have collated all the responses of the many different interviewees into an ebook. So it is more comprehensive for the audiences to read, and also it is a very interesting ebook because it contains a lot of different information, the different insights we have gathered, as well as small snippets of stories. So you can really get a better understanding of how different Singaporeans are coping through the COVID-19 situation. And in fact, if you're interested in this ebook, you can let us know through the comments, or you can drop Michelle a text and we will send you a copy of the ebook before the official launch. So it will be available for public viewing on National Day, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so just to wrap up the whole interview session, while we did not have a chance to interview the elderly, migrant workers, or the lower income families as much, many of the interviewers actually offered very great insights about how the pandemic could be affecting the more vulnerable groups. And the virus has definitely brought onto a social change in Singapore, and more people are showing their willingness to give back to society, and they are also demonstrating solidarity in this period. And to me, that is very heartwarming and very powerful. So it was also very inspiring to hear from the respondents when they say, like, when they give responses such as, oh, you know, we have to adapt to what we have and we have to appreciate the people around us and not take things for granted. And of course, health is wealth, especially during this pandemic. So it really made me understand how the world can change at any time, and we must really learn how to appreciate what we have currently and also learn to take care of those around us as well. And with that, I would like to thank everyone who has been listening to this presentation on our findings, and I hope that it was very useful or enlightening to you in any form. And I'm sure that we can get through this pandemic together. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Yay! Give yourself a round of applause. The formal part is done, right? So no need to stress already. All right. So now that we have shared your findings and what you have kind of like discovered in the process of having to interview the different people, I'd like to just check in for yourself, right? For yourself, what were your personal thoughts and experience during this COVID-19 pandemic, right? And some of it you already shared, like how you're affected because you have plans for these holidays and you cannot actually, implement your plans, right? So what are your maybe other thoughts or experiences that you might have when you first started on this project, and then now that you have kind of like heard from the different people, are there any other perspectives and insights that you've gained, or has anything changed for you? So whoever
Okay,
is
I will
ready.
start first then. Okay, so like personally for me, at first like before I joined this project, I thought I was quite unlucky because like my plans, like the orientation camps were all cancelled, and I was actually really like looking forward to these camps. Okay, so like initially I was quite like down. I was feeling like very like unlucky, or like I just feel like, why is it like happening to me in this year? Like, yeah, that's why. But after I joined this project and listening to many respondents, I felt that actually I'm one of those lucky ones instead, and that actually there are more like communities out there, more people that have been way more like badly affected than me. So like people lost their jobs because so far I've talked to two taxi drivers. They didn't manage to earn like more than $50 a day. Actually, I don't think they earn like more than $30 actually, because they had to pay for their fuel as well and their petrol. Then basically, a lot of people that I know, such as like insurance agents, they didn't manage to get anybody like to sign contracts. Like there were less customers because people were more conscious about their finance and their budget, so they didn't really want to sign contracts. Yeah. So like after joining this project, I actually learned that I'm quite fortunate and like quite privileged that I didn't have to worry about my finance, and I didn't have to worry about working from home, because many mentioned that low income families, they don't have enough like funds, they don't have enough access to basically like technology, Wi-Fi and laptops for their working from home, like that time, like the home-based learning as well. Yeah. So after this project, I decided that no, I learned that I should like be more grateful for what I have, and not like just complain that my camps are gone lah. Yeah, that's why I felt like I gained like more insights, and I learned to be more like empathetic, and basically I learned to like complain less, I guess. Yeah.
Yay! And that's important that you're complaining less. Thank you, Jen. Anyone else? Go next.
Maybe I'll go. Yeah, so actually mine is quite similar, but like actually I didn't really have a lot of plans cancelled because my camp just shifted to a orientation camp, so like that was fine, I guess. But like throughout the whole thing, or at least at the start, I never really felt very scared. Like I just didn't feel like I didn't feel like it was really going to happen to me in a way, because like I'm just chilling at home and like yeah, quite sheltered for everything lah. But then um like I got a sense of the seriousness from all the news and like reports about all the like very scary numbers and all the people dying and stuff. So like I got a big sense of like the seriousness, but like it didn't really feel like I was part of it in a way. And then a lot of like respondents also say like similarly they only realize it when like someone they know, or like someone, or they themselves are affected by it. So yeah, and then it also brings me to like the fact that like a lot of all these problems that we are addressing now, like the migrant workers cases, or like all those vulnerable groups that like so many people are reaching out to now, like it struck me that like usually we might not really care much about them, like only like during this kind of time then it trigger us to think about all these people. So I think that is something that like we could work on and like I personally, I also uh I guess like I will try to like go and find out more and stop like living in my own bubble. Yeah.
Yeah, for myself, I agree with what they have shared, because honestly, when I first heard about COVID-19, I didn't really take it very seriously as well. Then all of a sudden, there were flight restrictions, so all my holiday plans were cancelled. And initially, I was very bummed out, and I was just thinking, oh, why must this happen when I already have so many exciting things lined up for me? So it was a very selfish mindset, because I just kept complaining about how I couldn't go overseas. And even though I read about how other people are suffering on the news and how there are people dying out there, I guess it didn't really strike me as anything too serious, because I was very out of touch with it. So the people around me were not suffering directly because of the pandemic. So I was not taking the situation seriously. And it was only until after I started speaking to different people from different backgrounds that I realized how this situation has actually affected employment and also the health of others. Because I actually know a friend who has contracted COVID-19 after coming back from her summer exchange, or from her exchange program. So it made me realize how privileged I was to be in a position to even think about my holiday plans when other people may be trying to make ends meet or taking care of their family or their own health. So yeah, it made me feel that I should definitely appreciate what I have. And given that I'm in such a lucky and fortunate position that I don't have to worry too much about my finances or health, I should probably also help others who are in need.
Uh, I think that initially, right, I was like super narrow-minded, especially when like the stay home notice, not stay home notice, but the stay home period started. So like I was like thinking like, why must I stay at home? Then I was complaining this, complaining that, and then I'm really glad that I'm on board in this like project, because like I didn't realize how much this how much more people would suffer in this situation, especially to like people who are older than me. Because as a young adult, right, there's like so much you can whine and complain about. But then I'm still a student. But when I talk to all those adults like working, I realize like they have to care about their finances, they have to care about their family, etc. So it really struck me. And I think like for this project, right, before I started this project, I was a bit skeptical about the outcome, not about the project, but the outcome of the project, because like I was thinking, how can I help people by just talking to them? Yeah, that was what I was thinking. But I didn't tell the team because I want to figure it out myself also, and I don't think it was right to raise it up. So like after this whole interview session, I realized how much impact you can make just by speaking to someone, like speaking to a stranger. Like for myself, I thought I was the one, right, receiving all the benefits in a way that they share with me their experiences and give me some inspirational life quotes, etc. But then end up, right, one interview actually told me that he was glad that I spoke to him because like no one actually no one actually spoke to him about this, like how he was suffering or like what kind of impact that he had and how he was affected during this COVID. So he was glad that he made a friend in a sense. Like he rented to me lah, like what he felt during the COVID situation. So in a sense that we rented to each other and like we listened to each other and talk to each other, we kind of make friends lah afterwards. And we're still in contact actually. Yeah, because he works in the social services. Yeah. So like hopefully we can like use this data and like we can like come up with something more, you know. And then he tell me we always have to start somewhere, even if it's like a small project or like a big project. Yeah, so it's something that is my biggest takeaway lah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll share. So actually, what I wanted to share is very similar to what everyone has shared. So maybe I wouldn't elaborate much, but I would say my thoughts about the whole COVID-19 pandemic were quite shallow initially, and I wasn't too concerned about how others were affected. And like what was being shared, I was just like caught out in my own bubble and could only see how my own life was disrupted. But after this whole project started, I got to speak a lot more to other people and see how their lives have been disrupted on a whole new level, with some losing their jobs. And I'm very thankful that I'm still a student and don't have to worry much about my finances because I'm still living with my parents and they are still taking care of me. And it made me realize how fortunate I am. And actually, I'm very encouraged also to hear what Angela just shared about how she's still keeping in touch with her interviewee and how they might be doing some follow up. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
Thank you so much, ladies. I think it sounds like the impact is really huge in terms of not just the what perhaps people are getting from you when you interview them. I think there are moments that when we do our check-ins and you say that like people really never think so deeply into what's happening for them. They probably also do similar, right? If they have an opportunity to whine and complain and just rant and vent, they would do that. But when certain questions are being asked to them, the perspectives might shift a bit. They might reframe their thoughts a little bit more, and they might turn around and ask you like, "What's your experience and what do you think about the situation?" And then after the interview, if you do share that perspective with them, it helps to shed some light for them as well. Like, oh, I didn't see it from that perspective, or I didn't see it from this other things. And I really hope like this particular sharing session that we are having now, whoever that might be watching and whoever that might be viewing this down the road will also be able to have that shift in perspective, right? It's not just a data or a statistic, right? Like I think the previous cohort mentioned that when they read it from the newspapers or they hear it from the news, it's just a statistic, right? But we are talking about real people, real stories, and real experiences. And I'm very heartened to also hear from all five of you, right? That you yourselves have been touched by some of these stories, and you yourselves have also been enlightened perhaps in that process, right? And beyond just listening to these stories and hearing about all these little nuances of what individuals might be experiencing, how about for yourselves, right? Like just from this project itself and having to go out there and speak to people, and some people you don't know at all, and what did you learn about yourself through this project? Again, anyone who's ready can go first, and then you just pass the baton around.
I guess I can go first. So because every time during our like weekly check-in sessions with Michelle, then she also always like ask us this kind of question. So like already told the team like that at the start I really cannot like, I'm not the kind to like talk to strangers or like approach people first. So and then yeah, this whole thing just confirmed for me lah that I'm an introvert. I guess cause I mean at the start like last time it was like I did all the tests and stuff, right? Then it was like in the middle, then I also like not really sure. But then yeah, I realized sometimes like after talking, like after doing an interview, right? It's like during the interview I'm still okay, but then sometimes after interview or like maybe after many interviews in a day, then I will like feel so drained afterwards. Then I'm like, I feel like I spend a lot of energy just like being engrossed in that conversation. Yeah, but then like I guess I also found out that like I mean it's very daunting to start a conversation, but like once I actually started, then I found out that people are actually very nice and like very willing to chat, especially if you are like trying to find out about themselves, then they are like very willing to go on and continue the conversation lah. So it's not as like scary as it seems initially. And like also it's very like I enjoyed it more than I expected lah. Like once I got into a conversation, then like I really wanted to like go deeper into it and like yeah, just like understand the person deeper rather than like just answering the question and like getting like superficial answers. Yeah.
I think adding on to what Yuling shared, I can relate with the part where she shared that she feels very drained after talking to people. Actually, I also like after I end a call, I will always like retreat to like my bed and then just use my phone for like 15 minutes before I go out and talk to my parents. Yeah. So for myself, like because I took on a part-time like day job also. So well sometimes when I finish my day job and then I will always be like, wow, sian, go home still must call people, that kind of feeling. Yeah. Then but yeah, then but over time it became a bit better lah. I didn't really see it as like a task I must complete, but I told myself to just see it as like a conversation to hear from other people. Yeah, so initially I was very concerned about conducting interviews because I know that I'll be so drained. But I learned that I actually can push myself to do things. So over time, I just told myself to just do it. And actually, I surprised myself for talking to so many different people that I would otherwise like not talk to.
I think for myself, I realized that I can be a better listener lah. Like I can definitely work on that because normally when in a social setting, right, I prefer to be the one sharing and talking. So interviewing was actually like very different from what I'm used to because for interviewing you must really like practice active listening. So you must also make sure that your responses don't sway the other person's response. So normally for me, when I hear the respondent saying anything, I will just like, oh, I will feel like saying something or sharing my opinions. But I feel that if I do that, then it will definitely change how they, what they initially wanted to say, just to, because in a conversation, like sometimes people say things just so like the other person likes to hear. So I think I definitely can work on that. And to be very honest, yeah, like it was really very tiring to just keep listening to people's problems. And I kind of feel depressed after a while because some of the problems are quite unfortunate, I would say. And it just makes me feel that, oh, some people are going through so much. And I just really want to be there for them and to provide a listening ear as well. Yeah.
Okay, so to add on to Yuling's like what Yuling has said, so like most of my interviewees were very like friendly and approachable, but like what I learned about myself was that actually like before like I had a like lack of communication. Like I can work on my communication skills. So basically like because there was like miscommunication in our team, and basically me and one other team member contacted the same person twice. I mean like contacted the same person together. So like that interviewee was very overwhelmed and she felt very confused because she thought that we had like a lot of interviews for her. And she was like, huh, what? I don't have time for that. Then yeah. So we are very sorry. So like basically what I learned is that I need to like take responsibility and be responsible for my own mistake. And like accept it when you're wrong, I guess, and like basically just work on it. So like basically after the incident, my team actually like had a like self-reflection kind of meeting, and then we said that we will just like update the Excel sheet when we contacted someone. So yeah, I think that was like what like a damage recovery kind of like tactic. So yeah, I think I can definitely work on communication skills. So basically like in the future, like before I do something, I'll tell them, hey, actually I contacted the person before already. Something like that. Yeah.
For me, on a personal note, right, I didn't expect myself to be able to speak to people like adults, in the sense that like before this, right, my oldest friend is like maybe 28 years old. Yeah, so like I was quite worried, especially when Michelle first like shared with us that since cohort 2 have like interviewed people of the in the 20s, so we have to interview people above 30. I was quite concerned about that because I don't have any friends from the age group, and that means that I have to like really actively like try to seek people from other age groups, like older age groups. And I didn't expect myself to actually be able to find so many people from like an age group outside of mine. And I didn't expect myself to be able to speak to them, like especially for 1 hour. That's like super amazing for me, because initially when I thought I would only like spend 15 minutes talking to them, but when I end a call I realized it was like 1 hour. Yeah, so it's amazing now, like having to know that actually I can speak to anyone as long as I'm sincere and I'm genuine about talking to them and interviewing them. Yeah.
Nice. All of you have shared already, right? And it sounds like there's a lot of breakthroughs for you all in terms of your what you learned about yourself in this process. And I hope that you can take this further lah for whatever that you are going to do next, right? Because the project might have ended at this point in time, but your life still carries on, and you will be going back to school. You will have other project work. You will be going out to work into different industries, and you might face similar challenges, right? About how to approach people that you perhaps don't know, or even a bit more daunting to approach, like your bosses in future, right? And then how do you actually start talking to them and having conversations with them to figure out? And then that was one of our debrief questions as well, like how would you want to interact, or have conversations like these kind of deep conversations with your bosses, right? So last point of reflection for you all, right? If there was like one or two takeaways for you in terms of the soft or human skills from this project, what would it be? What would be the that one or two things that you say that, okay, I learned this particular skill, or I enhanced this particular skill?
I can
Okay,
go
so I
first.
okay.
So
Okay.
I would say I learned the importance of
Paper stone. Who want to go first?
No, you can go first.
oh, it's okay, you can go first.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay. Never mind. I'll go first. Okay. So like one of the takeaways is that basically I learned to be more open-minded. Like basically I open-minded to like different perspectives around me, and not just like I believe in what is like my own like thoughts. So basically I had different opinions and different like answers for a lot of the questions. So for the question on like what is one good thing that happened out of COVID? So some respondents actually were very like pessimistic. They told me that nothing was good. They told me that how can anything be good? So yeah, basically like I think it's good to like respect each other opinions. So like even if you think something is like good yourself, you cannot like let them know like you cannot like say their like mind. So yeah, then another thing is that I learned to be more like humble about myself. So basically like because I learned to know that many groups in Singapore have been badly affected, and the communities around me like some are like actually suffering more. So I learned to be more like giving back to society whenever I can. So actually I sign on with like CDAC and Youth Corp Singapore to like during this period to like give back to like the community, like help out with their like ad hoc events to volunteer. Yeah. Okay, never mind, to add on. Yeah. So like okay lah. So like I learned how to be more like empathetic as well, and like basically practice like active listening skills instead of like just like jumping into other people's conversations. So like usually I would just like want to talk like talk quite like quickly. Yeah. So like usually I talk like very fast, then like I'll just jump into them. So like I will interrupt them. But during this period I tried to like hold myself back. Like if I want to say something I try not to say. I will wait until like the end of the interviews to give my own inputs, and basically like things like maintaining eye contact and like yeah, body language.
Yeah, for me it's quite similar also. Like I learned how to better hold a conversation, like in the sense that first like I learned like that people are very willing to converse with you once like you like give them a chance to and like show your interest in finding out more about them. And yeah, especially like you just need like a little probing or like asking the right questions, and then uh like trigger this flow of like response. Then sometimes like it's easy to like you just ask a simple question, and then like got some people they like love to talk a lot, so like they will just say a lot, and then they themselves will be like, sorry, I like to talk a lot. You will write everything, you know. I'm just like, it's okay, you just continue. Yeah, very interesting to listen to you. Yeah, but then sometimes it's also like there's a danger of like tuning off, like zoning off a bit, because like I'm just like listening, and then I don't really know what the point is, you know. And then like yeah, so sometimes I have to snap myself out of it, like yeah, and just like really pay attention, which is really important for this kind of like interview, and also like in really communicating well with a person, because like I think active listening also involves like not just listening properly, but also like understanding their story, and then responding in the right way to them. Yeah, so you also have to like yeah kind of remember what they say, and then like judge their tone and their emotions and stuff. So it's like it actually takes quite a lot of effort. Yeah, I realize. Yeah.
For myself, I would say that I learned the importance of communication, and I'll share on it from within the context of our team and also outside of our team. So within our team, right, I learned to always keep one another like updated and in the loop of our progress. So we don't do like double work or anything. And then moving on, like outside of our team, I learned the importance of being able to communicate well with your interviewees, to be able to make them feel heard and to practice that active listening skill like what was shared. And I think earlier in the earlier question just now, I also shared about how I learned to see call as not a task that I must complete, but a conversation. And so I also learned not to be too conscious of the task of asking questions, but to also enjoy the process and to hear what they are saying, both on the surface level and also to pick out any like underlying feelings that they may have in deeper level. Yeah, so that's for me.
I think for myself, it's also similar to what they have shared, the point on active listening. So I realized that active listening is actually very important in building trust with the person you're talking to. So because it shows that you are paying attention to the things you say, and active listening also helps you sort of determine the follow-up questions. So you will also be able to ask better questions to empathize with them and to find out more about them. And that really gets people to share more with you and be more open to sharing. So I think active listening is definitely a skill that I will employ in the future as well.
I think other than what everyone else have already added on, for me, my personal takeaway is like really to connect with people. Yeah, I know it sounds cliche, but actually this project is what it's all about also. So like, I believe that if you are genuine about something, if you ask people genuine questions, if you host a conversation like genuinely, then people will do the same to you also. Yeah. So that was my biggest takeaway, in a sense that um whatever for example, if I give 100% in the conversation, people either give me 100% or they give me a little more. So which is like my biggest takeaway. I realized that people are really kind to participate in this project. Yeah.
Thank you, ladies. Give yourself a round of applause one more time. Well done. It has been a interesting 4 weeks of ups and downs. And I was telling this group, like, it's very interesting that out of all the groups that I've had in as a part of this SIIP, this group actually had probably the most challenges in terms of coordinating, communicating, and actually even just like scheduling their interviewees, right? And it was funny that we actually had a situation where when that one person came back and said, how come got so many people want to interview me? And then they said, who's going to interview you? And then they gave me 4 names. And out of the 4 names, we could identify that one was for the project Happiness, the Happiness Project. And then the other 3 names supposedly came from this group. But yet we cannot find who that one other person is because the name was just extremely different. And we were all puzzled. I think at one point I was getting a bit frustrated. I'm like, hello guys, don't you even know whose name this is? Like, we don't know, like, let me check the number. And then we had to go and figure out like who it was. It was a very interesting process, like for all of us. And I think a lot of learning that came out from that as well, to like, okay, how come there's all these challenges that came out, right? So thank you, ladies, for pulling it through and being persevering throughout the entire thing and not giving up, in the middle of it, even though there were all these like miscommunication and coordination issues. And I'm glad that you actually took on all these challenges with a very positive attitude, right? Like having to take on the responsibility, like what Jen said, to go and apologize or to go and rectify what was happening. And it was interesting, like how they had to probably coordinate amongst themselves again and say, hey, let me contact this person again and let me reschedule the appointment or reschedule the interview, and without having to actually like give any excuses, right? To say that, no lah, just now that person didn't, that kind of thing. So it was very nice to actually see them attempt again and again. So very persevering in their spirit to have to do all these. So it's very heartening to see how they have grown over time, and to come to this point, right, where they are now completed everything. They have done their slides, they have done the ebook, and like I think one of them mentioned that the ebook will be officially launched on the 9th of August. We hope to have that launch on that day. So how the launch will be, actually I don't know yet. We will figure that out when it comes nearer that day. But meanwhile, all the respondents, as a token of appreciation for your participation through the entire project, we will be also giving you a copy of this ebook so that you have it as a token of appreciation from all of us for spending time to be a part of this project and to be heard. And we hope that the experience has been pleasant for you overall. And it is a new normal. The way forward for a lot of organizations and for a lot of people will be that we will probably have a kind of a blended approach, where if we need to meet and we really have to meet up face to face, then we will have our masks on. So in terms of expression, in terms of being able to hear, we need to take a lot more effort and time to actually understand each other. And if we are going to have our sessions and meetings online, which is like what this group kind of faced, and collaborate in terms of how we're going to work together online, the approaches will also be changed, right? Like how do we actually get to know each other before we jump into the project and all these things along the way. So a lot of changes have to be done, and this few cohorts and this group in particular really had to challenge themselves, because by this time we realized, actually not just me, I realized, and then I think Skilio also realized that actually a lot of our participants in this SIIP have taken on other projects as well. So they are actually straggling like 2 or 3 different things that's going on for them that requires a lot of their time. And for them to continue to want to be a part of the SIIP and to hone these skills is commendable, right? So with that, thank you very much. We have had people coming in to view and then popping out and popping in and that kind of thing. So thank you if you have been joining us for this entire session to watch. And if you haven't been, you are watching this after the live is done. Thank you for also watching this and journeying with us. We really appreciate that you spend time to listen to this, because as much as like maybe this is taking up well 1-2 hours of your time to listen to it. But I guess like for what our team here has learned, that all it takes is just a few moments to just tune in, listen, connect, and then people will feel appreciated. So once again, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you all these lovely ladies for being part of the project. We will end the live. So thank you everyone. Just say goodbye, and then we will talk about our next steps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.